Perfect. I'd like to welcome everyone to the District of Sechelt Committee of the Whole meeting for Wednesday, November 10th. It is 3:01, and I'd like to first acknowledge we are on the traditional and unceded territories of the Sechelt Nation. And I would like to call to order and ask if there's any declaration of conflict. Seeing none, I would like to move the adoption of the agenda. Moved? Seconded? All in favor? And it doesn't look like we have any appointments or delegations and no new business. So we'll move right on to business items. We are moving on to 5.1, COVID-19 Safe Restart Grant for Nonprofits and Charities, second intake. And we have a report from Siobhan Smith, Arts, Cultural and Communications Coordinator, and David Douglas, Director of Financial Services. So I'll turn the floor over to you, whoever's talking first. Thank you.
Thank you. I will begin the presentation and invite Director Douglas to join in at any time that he so chooses. So before you is a report to bring forward the applications from the second intake of the COVID-19 grants that we issued to the community. As you'll recall, there was just over 17,000 left over from the original 100,000 budget for this grant program. In the second intake, we received 10 applications requesting approximately 108,000 in grants. And you'll find on pages 4 to 7 of the agenda package the summary of the requests that we received. Staff did review all of these grant applications to ensure that they met the basic eligibility requirements, and they more or less all did. The project they're proposing does serve vulnerable populations. However, the organization doesn't necessarily always have that as their key part of their mandate. So it will be up to the committee and then council to determine whether or not to issue grants to these organizations. The assessment criteria is available on page 6 of the agenda, page 8 of the agenda package. You'll see there's 4 specific points to be evaluating these applications on, primarily evidence of community need for the program, project, or service being suggested, the capacity of the organization to actually fulfill this program or service, the benefit that vulnerable populations will receive from this program, and the financial need of the organization. All of this should be contained in their answers within their application. So happy to answer any questions you may have, and otherwise I will turn it over to Director Douglas or to the committee to start their discussion on this.
Mr. Douglas, Director Douglas, do you have anything to add?
I have not much to add. Siobhan and I did go through through all the applications, and our view is really for the basic, whether they qualified from a basic perspective. I think it's up to council to just look at the programs and the benefits of each program to determine where they would like to see the $17,000 go to. Thank you.
Thank you. Does council have any questions? Mayor Seegers?
Mr. Douglas, so we have $108,000 of requests, and we have $17,000 to allocate. I mean, I don't agree with all of the applications that have been put forward, but there are some really good applications here that would merit support. So I guess, are we limited to the 100,000?
Through the chair, that's what council's approved to this point, is $100,000. We have given out just over $80,000, so that leaves $17,000. you're right, there are some very good applicants here. There's some that, probably could be, not awarded. So, maybe we could start with a discussion on those and then see where we are. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments by council? Yours.
So, I mean, I'm totally in favor of number 9. Number 9 is the $1,400 for the volunteers to participate in the Business Engagement Ambassador Pilot Project. I think it's very worthwhile, and it directly addresses vulnerable populations in Sechelt. So I'd like to see that one move forward.
Councillor McLean?
Yeah, so there were a really big number of high-quality applications for this grant. It shows that there's a lot of really good community programming in Sechelt. So what I did is I went through the four criteria: the evidence of community need, the benefits to vulnerable populations, the evidence of financial need, and the capacity to deliver programs. And I ranked each one of them 1 to 5. So with that, I've come up with a ranking, and maybe I'll just share that so we can start the discussion, because it's a lot to consider all at once. So starting from the ones that ranked highest on those 4 criteria, which are within our policy, I had the Salvation Army Project, the Sunshine Coast Affordable Housing Society Project, the Hospice, the Sunshine Coast Community Services, and the Resource Center. So those 5 form the upper echelon of my ranking, and the remaining are at a lower level. So my preferred approach for this would be to fund those 5 projects that received the highest ranking in my judgment on the 4 criteria that were presented.
Sorry, could you rattle off the numbers again? So that would be...
I didn't use numbers, so
okay,
I apologize.
So the names then? Salvation Army?
Salvation Army, Affordable Housing Society, Hospice, Community Services, and the Resource Center.
Does anyone else have a comment? Mayor Seegers?
Sorry, it was 82.5? Did you add up the numbers?
Yeah, it's 83.5. It's the number. I have Excel in front of me, so unless I typed in something wrong. So essentially, the next step that I did is I took those. It adds up to 83,500, and we only have 17,000 available. So my preferred approach would be to increase the amount that we have funding for them. So provide a larger COVID grant amount. So I would like to see that increased, but at the same time, I have looked at the requests. We have one more criteria that I didn't assess, which would be the criteria for going above $10,000, which is let me just policy 4.2, the maximum amount awarded to any organization is $10,000, except for projects that address an issue of paramount community concern, as determined by council. So we have 2 projects here that are above the 10,000 amount: the Salvation Army and the Sunshine Coast Affordable Housing Society. From my determination, in terms of feedback that I have heard from the community, the rental crisis is something that is of paramount community concern, whereas the issue that Salvation Army is looking to address, which is access to to a cold weather shelter for people from Sechelt traveling into Gibsons and vice versa, I haven't heard as much as that as a councillor. So in my determination, personally, I say that the rental crisis is a paramount community concern, but the access to that cold weather shelter is not up there. So that would bump my amount down for the Salvation Army to 10,000. And then for the Affordable Housing Society, I also look at that, their existing funding from the SCRD, and they received $25,000 from the SCRD. So looking at our population basis, I think it would be fair for us to fund them $25,000 as well. So doing all of that puts me at $63,500, and subtracting the approximately $17,000 that we currently have, we would need to increase available funding by $46,266.
Councillor Rowe?
Question for Ms. Smith. I'm just looking at the community services one as an example. And the grant request is to seek funding for wages for the volunteer program lead, et cetera. And I'm sorry, I didn't have time to dig into the CIP grants, but I am wondering whether that's a duplicate ask of an item that had already been asked for. When we're looking at these, do you guys vet them for that, for these groups that, bring a lot of grants forward? And do you have any recollection?
Yes. Thank you to Councillor Rowe through the chair. If you have a moment to take a look at their application, on the front page of each application, we have a summary sheet that staff put together. And in there, it indicates the value of the other grants that have been awarded to the organization. So for Sunshine Coast Community Services in particular, we did this year award them $2,000 to the volunteer mentorship program. So this particular program has been supported by way of a community investment program grant for this year, but only $2,000. So they are seeking additional funding to support that program. The other program that we've provided them with a grant for is completely unrelated. It's the youth outreach program that all local governments on the Sunshine Coast contribute to.
Perfect. Thanks. I missed that. Sorry.
Thank you. No problem.
Well, Mayor Seegers?
Hey, Mr. Douglas, if we wanted to increase the value for this final COVID grant application, what would we need to do?
Through the chair, I think you would need to provide a motion increasing the amount for the grants by $46,266, and then identify the awards. Currently, we have identified or almost spent just over $1 million of the COVID funds that we received. And so we received 2.5 million, just over 2.5 million, spent just over $1 million. And so we have 1.558 million left. So 1,558,099 left in that reserve.
So you're saying 46,266 plus the 17 the 17 that still exists would cover off what Councillor McLean was proposing?
I wasn't able to get all his numbers, but I'm going from what he's said so far. So I'm going to say yes. If
can we count your numbers?
Yeah, I have it in Excel in front of me, but I could repeat it for everyone's purposes. So the numbers that I have is $10,000 for the Salvation Army, 25,000.
Slow.
Okay, so $10,000 for Salvation Army, $25,000 for the Sunshine Coast Affordable Housing Society, $8,500 for the hospice, $10,000 for community services, $10,000 for the resource center, and I'm sensing that the mayor would like to see the Downtown Business Association added for $14,000 or $1,400.
$1,400.
Yeah.
Yes, please. This came through the Sunshine Coast Community Action Team, Rain City Housing, Vancouver Coastal Health, and the Downtown Business Association. They're all working together to support vulnerable populations, as it says here, right? And they are actively out there right now, and they're looking for rain gear, just boots and raincoats and stuff. So $1,400 is a minimal investment, I think, in a very worthwhile program. They've modeled it on a program, I believe they said from Abbotsford or Burnaby or something like that. And the businesses downtown are really appreciating the work that's happening. So what would that total then, with your handy-dandy spreadsheet over there?
It would total, so the total funding that we're going to approve today is $64,900, and subtracting the remaining amount means that we need an additional $46,266. $46,266.
And that includes the $1,400?
That includes the $1,400 for the Downtown Business Association.
$46,266. Okay, thank you.
Okay, does anyone else have questions? What would you like to do? Councillor McLean.
I would like to signify that I did have a lower ranking for the Downtown Business Association, so I didn't have them included in my original ask. And just to my rankings, it's the evidence for community need. I had them ranked lower, so I don't see the need for the rain gear explained in the grant. Why don't people already have rain gear is the question I had there, as well as I also had lower rankings for the capacity to deliver programs. This is outside the strengths of the Downtown Business Association. I recognize they have partners, so they are mitigating that, but it is not within their core mandate.
So this program, currently our staff are going around and cleaning up debris, used needles, etc. And there is the Downtown Business Association, the whole downtown core is being impacted by homeless and the, just living there. So the Downtown Business Association has actually worked with these other organizations, and they're actually hiring the vulnerable population, the homeless, to go out and do this type of work. So it's looking to break down the stigma between those who are homeless and the business owners and clean up the area. So these people don't have the rain gear. So we're looking at providing them with the rain gear to be able to actually go out and do this job.
Chair Kuster?
Yes. Director Douglas?
So I get a little bit different number than you have now. Because your initial numbers added up to 63,500. Then we add the 1,400, which comes to 64,900. And you take off the 17,234 that's left. And I get, you would have to increase the budget by 47,666.
That is correct. Thank you for checking my math.
Thank you, Director Douglas.
You're welcome.
Do we have any more comments about the Downtown Business Association? Councillor Rowe?
Just to say that I've seen the team out there working quite a bit in the last 2 weeks, and I can't imagine it's not making a difference. And I would hate to see them out there in the monsoons that we've been having lately without appropriate gear. I wouldn't feel great about that. And it is a completely vulnerable population that that the program is putting to work. And so for $1,400, I think it serves so many different needs that I support including it in this.
Thank you. Any other comments before we move forward? Okay, does anyone want to make a recommendation?
I guess I get the fun job of doing that because I do stuff together. So let's start with the total funding amount. So I'd like to move that the committee recommend to council that the COVID-19 Safe Restart grant fund be increased by $47,666. So let's start with that motion.
All in favor?
Okay, now let's to the corporate officer. Would you prefer that I go through each one by one, or do a bulk motion?
It's really up to council and deciding member, and long as it's all clearly outlined, whether it's on one
Sorry about that. Really, it's up to committee how they wish to, if you wish to vote on them separately or vote on them all in one. From our perspective, as long as they are in the resolution, doesn't matter if they're separate or not. Thank you.
Councillor McLean, do you want to move recommendation 1?
Yes, I will move recommendation 1 that the report from the Arts, Culture, and Communications Coordinator regarding COVID-19 Safe Restart Grant's second intake be received.
I have a seconder? Seconded? All in favor? Okay, do you want to move recommendation number 2 as well?
I will move a version of recommendation 2 because I think we need to be more specific. So I move that the committee recommend to council that the following projects are funded. First would be the Salvation Army Sunshine Coast Community Church for $10,000. The Sunshine Coast Affordable Housing Society for $25,000. Sunshine Coast Community Services Society for $10,000. Sunshine Coast Hospice for $8,500. Sunshine Coast Resource Center for $10,000. And the Sechelt Downtown Business Association for $1,400.
Have a seconder for that? Okay, seconded. All in favor? Okay, so that is passed, and we can move on to item 5.2, official community plan consultation policy, and we have a report from Director of Planning and Development, Andrew Allen. So I'll turn the floor over to you. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Chair Kuster. So this was a policy that I had drafted. I'm hearing some echo. Can you folks hear me? Okay. So this is a policy that we had drafted and had presented to council last year, and it respects to our consultation during OCP, official community plan, be it either amendment or renewal of a plan altogether. And this level of consultation for OCP carries a higher expectation than other types of applications and is referred to specifically in the Local Government Act. And so a referral for a development permit or a subdivision is largely technical and administered by staff, but an effective and a legally defensible consultation plan for OCP is really administered by council. council opens the consultation process, turns their mind specifically with who to consult with, that still comes via recommendation from staff in a staff report. And then council at the end, prior to public hearing, closes the process as well. So it is a thoughtful and it's an intentional process for council to determine who it wishes to hear from during this process. So we have tried this out. We've given it a bit of a test run in the last few applications. But I think it's a good policy and has been reviewed by our solicitor, and it would be a good addition to the council policy manual that will formalize it and carry on with our processes with future staff, future council as well. And so I recommend that council consider this and add it to its policy manual. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any questions or comments from council? Councillor McLean?
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that the planning department has been been using this policy over the past couple years or months, even though it hasn't been adopted. I think that really goes to show that it's adequate. I think when we saw this several months ago, it is in line with what the community expects, and it will provide a lot of clarity. So I think it's a really helpful tool for us to have moving forward. So I would be happy to move recommendation, I guess 1 and 2. 1, that the report from the Director of Planning and Community Development regarding official community plan consultation policy 3.3.7 be received. And recommendation 2, that the committee recommend to council that council policy 3.3.7 official community plan consultation be adopted as presented.
Is there a seconder? Seconded. All in favor? And moved. Thank you. Okay, we will move on to item 5.3, Community Amenity and Affordable Housing Policy. And again, we have a report from Director of Planning and Development, Andrew Allen. And I'll turn the floor over to you again. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Chair Kuster. So on a bit of a roll here with policy suggestions and revisiting policies that Council has seen. Now, this was first presented just about 2 years ago. And we did try it out, and it's been working to a degree, but there's room for improvement. And so I'm pleased to propose some amendments here, and it is contained within strategic direction number 4 of Council strategic plan, which does elevate it and make it a key work plan item. And we could see, of course, that 2 years has gone by and it's timely to consider this again. So we are, in a sense, we do have an amenity contribution policy. We do have policies contained within the OCP. The existing policy is proven to be dated and not really effective. So essentially, through council support and resolution, we have been seeking amenity contributions when there are density increases. In some cases, the development itself can be considered the amenity or provides amenity on site, or through tangible additions through housing agreements. In other cases, it's more streamlined approach for the applicant to consider a voluntary cash contribution through this policy. There's different ways to look at it, but we do seek to negotiate fairly with applicants, report back to council. But I think the goal here is to provide a fair, consistent approach that's reasonable and can be dependable and endorsed by council. Council does retain, of course, final decision-making process in each case, which does provide that balance. Staff can say we're committed to fair discussion, but it does provide that balance where everything is brought back to council for decision and consideration. And to repeat, we have been doing this. We feel it's been successful and reasonable and fair. And but what I've done here is taken the proposed policy that was presented in 2019 and improved it in staff's opinion, and have provided a clean copy of the policy for review. And then there's another copy that shows the additions and subtractions in track changes for ease of review and convenience. And I'm happy to pass it over to the committee for discussion. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I guess first I should get someone to move recommendation 1, which I should have done already. Moved, seconded. All in favor? And does anyone have any questions for staff about this? Councillor McLean?
Yeah, just like a clarification if the amounts specified here are on the lift, so that is the amount increased over the current zoning, or if it's on total units.
That could potentially vary depending on the application, but the intent through fairness is to base it on the lift.
Any follow-up or other questions? Or Seegers?
Does Councillor Lamb have any questions or comments on this? No? Okay. Then I would move recommendation 2, that it be recommended to council that council policy 3.5.6 implementation policy for affordable housing and community amenities be rescinded. The community amenity and affordable housing contribution policy 3.5.8 be forwarded to council for approval.
McLean, is that a second? Seconded? All in favor? Oh, and a comment? Go for it. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to say a little something about this. This is a key part of our strategic plan, so I want to thank staff for putting this forward. What this really does is enables predictability for our development community. Given that these are voluntary contributions, it provides a starting point. And the really key part about this is that development should be beneficial for our community. So there is provisions within here that these amenities can be incorporated into a development. They can be something like daycare space, a playground, or art. So the development can provide that public benefit as it is built, or it can be a cash contribution. So I think that flexibility ensures that as Seashell grows and it develops, we are ensuring that our citizens continue to have the amenities that they're used to accessing, and that we can continue to have a vibrant community. So I think this is a really important policy. I'm really happy with how it's written. I like the changes between the single-family unit, townhouses, apartment buildings, and discount for rentals. I think all of that will help spur smart development. So I'm in full support of this policy.
Does anyone else have any comments or questions? No. So we have a second already. So all in favor? Okay, moved. Thank you. Director Allen?
Thank you.
Okay, so we will move on to item 5.4, 2022 Budget Citizen Satisfaction Survey. And we have a report from Director of Financial Services. And does anyone want to move? Mayor Seegers, seconded. All in favor? Thank you. Turn the floor over to Director Douglas.
Thank you, Chair Kuster. We're presenting the results of our summer citizen satisfaction survey to committee of the whole today. Really provided for information and for interest. It's an interesting read. We did get 112 responses. It does not make that, just statistically significant. However, there are some, some good things to just look at as we start to go through the budget process. It looks like there's a couple of areas that citizens would like to see us, maybe maintain a little bit better. It looks like water is the biggest issue from the survey, followed by accountability, And kind of other top important issues would be the BC ferries, budgeting and funding, taxation, and affordable housing. It also looks like over 80% of the survey takers found that living in Seashell was satisfactory or better. That's on page 209. And like I said, I'm not really reviewing the whole survey, but these are kind of little highlights. And on page 221, it asks about, how would they like us to communicate? And the top three answers are heavily what we do now. So it shows that, I think we're engaged with the community. I think we hear them. We kind of know where our problems lie, and we'll be trying to address it as we go through the budget for 2022. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone from council have a question or comment about this? Thank you. Councillor McLean.
Yeah, I'd love to share some of the key findings that I got out of this survey. So I'm going to reference page 213 to 217 in the agenda, if anyone wants to follow along. So the first point I notice is the satisfaction of maintenance and repair of roads and ditches. That is one of our lower areas. But likewise, people would like us to expand that service. So they're dissatisfied and they'd like to see us more. That was probably the clearest message I took out of this survey. I also see an interest in expanding policing within the survey. However, I don't see a large degree of satisfaction or dissatisfaction with policing. So I see more mixed kind of reaction on that side. I think another one I see is a very high level of satisfaction for our parks. But then I don't see any clear consensus on whether we should be increasing or maintaining service there. So kind of mixed bag for parks. Similarly with planning and development. There's a moderately high level of dissatisfaction with planning and development. However, at the same time, the biggest category in planning and development is to maintain it and don't increase taxes for that area. So that's kind of a mismatch on dissatisfaction and wanting to increase funding. So that's a few of the things I found interesting.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any comments or questions? Mayor Seegers?
Page 221 and 222. So 221, as you indicated, they're ranking highly the avenues of communication we use, but then on 222, they say too little communication. So we're addressing the arenas, we're addressing them as they'd like to be addressed, but we're not doing enough of it, is what I'm hearing them say in there. So I think we'll have to look at that with our new communications manager.
Any other comments? Mayor Seegers, any follow-up? Okay, well, then I guess we can move on to item 5.5, 2022 provisional budget book. And we have a report from Director of Financial Services, David Douglas. So I'll turn the floor over to you again. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Kuster. Once again, I provided a rather large document for Council to review. We will be going through this document on November 30th and December 1st. Today, I didn't intend to go through it in any fashion. It has been a passion of work from the Finance Department over the last 3 months. And we are happy to be able to have it all together and complete for council at this point for review. The 2022 budget, basically just as a kind of a rounded, the budget's been put together based on similar level of service in previous years. The only area that you'd be looking at expanded services is through the new one-time asks that we've got in the document. Other than that, it's a very similar level of service. You will see on page, half a second. Starting on page of the agenda, page 241 or page 14 of the document, start to describe what's in the 2022 budget from the general operating fund, and then further in the document in the sewer and septic areas. So, we're very happy to be able to present this today, and we look forward to discussions on November 30th. Thank you.
Thank you. Actually, can I get a motion to receive the report? Moved, seconded, all in favor? And does anyone have any questions or comments from council at this time? No. Oh, sorry, Dr. Douglas?
Yes, just wanted to make comments. So where we go from here, on November 30th, we have two public sessions on Monday. We have one at noon and one at 7 o'clock, where we're just going to introduce the book to the public. Once again, we'll do some summary, but we're not going to get into it in a very detailed manner with the public. So we invite the public and we invite council to come to that. So once again, Monday at noon, and then a second showing Monday at 7 o'clock at night.
Director Douglas, is that on Zoom or?
Yes, that will be on Zoom.
Thank you. Is there any other questions or comments before we move on? Council Mayor Seegers?
I want to thank Director Douglas and all those senior staff who put time and effort into this book. I know it's been hours and hours and hours of work. So thank you for that, and we look forward to working with you on this on November 30th and December 1st.
Thank you. If there's no further questions or comments, I'll look for a motion to adjourn. Moved? Seconded?